What is up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Mets'd podcast. New Year's episode, last one of the year. If you're seeing it after New Year's, Happy New Year's to all you out there. We do appreciate you guys. Just a couple things, a little housekeeping episode before the end of the year. We got Pete Alonso drama. We got Corbin Burns signing a contract with the Diamondbacks, telling you about that because thought the Mets should have been a little more involved. Teoscar Hernández, we almost signed him, apparently, that we're interested in him. We've got Sean Manaea contract info, and Steve Cohen's Twitter was bizarre for like 2 days. I don't know. We'll talk about everything there. Before we do, make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. A ton of you subbed the last episode. Appreciate you. You listened to the call to action. We're doing it one more time. Check that subscribe button. If it's red, you're not subbed. Click it so that whenever there's a new episode, it pops up on your homepage on YouTube. Or if you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, download, subscribe on there, put on the auto downloads, give us a rating, give us a review as well. It really does help us out. James, how was your Christmas? How was the holiday break? How are you feeling?
Wonderful Christmas. Feeling good. Excited for the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day. Also funny to tell like the episodes that we put out in the order we put them out in, because before we went back to our parents for Christmas, we're like, we're going to record a top prospects episode. So shout out to you guys, live interaction on that. Got great views. Just we love doing the prospect stuff. We know you guys love doing the prospect stuff. Somebody's going to be really consistent with the channel and the podcast this coming season. Going to have some guests talking about prospect stuff soon too. Definitely as the winter free agency period starts to die down the next month or so. And then we recorded an episode that we put out, and then we had to stop because Sean Manaea signed at 2 a.m. Then we do that, but we don't talk about Sean Manaea next one. So we haven't really talked since like the fallout of Sean Manaea and then seeing all this stuff with Pete Alonso the last couple of days. But it was a really nice holiday. Really wonderful time over this break.
Yeah, no, it was good. And we did get a little bit more, like you said, in that Sean Manaea contract situation. We got deferrals. Love to hear that. What exactly were they? I think it's like $20 million right over the 3 years is going to be deferred.
I think about $3 million a year totally deferred. So it comes down to basically like I think it was like someone said a 3 year, $58 million. I'll double check it right now. But it seems like Sean Manaea signed a very friendly contract for the Mets, which is a really, really nice thing. A team that's trying to stockpile as much talent as possible and win a championship in the next few years.
Yeah, and could be used for some extra pieces. We heard the Teoscar Hernández rumor. He signed a 3 year, $36 million contract with the Dodgers during the holiday break. And apparently the Mets were interested. I think it was Will Salmon or one of those guys put out that the Mets offered him a 2-year deal, similar AAV to Teoscar Hernández. And that was kind of a bit of a surprise. I don't think anybody really had that on their bingo card that the Mets were going to go after Teoscar. Obviously a good player, obviously a good hitter. It makes sense. Like I can see the thought process there. But now that leads Mets fans to thinking, one, is Pete maybe not as sure to come back as we thought he was? Are the Mets maybe not going to be as aggressive as we thought they would be with Pete Alonso for him to come back? And then 3, who's the guy to fill this in? Because they're clearly after another bat, it looks like. And if it's not Teoscar and it maybe isn't Pete Alonso, who could that be? A lot of questions that need to be answered now for the Mets.
I think it's just very obvious looking at this team, even with Soto, that they need another bat. Like there's just no doubt about it. It's like I think everyone's assuming. I think you and I also too, maybe wrongfully at times, that bat still will be Pete Alonso, but there's no guarantee. And we're all kind of all these things are meshing together into the same conversation because the Pete stuff kind of hit like a couple different fever pitches over the last week, where allegedly the Mets offered him a 3-year, $90 million deal, and apparently he came back. Baerga, shout out Baerga. Martino said that also something was in that range, was probably offered, so it was half corroborated. And then apparently the snapback was that they're still looking for something $175 million total value, which still to me seems completely insane. And then I got Jamesy Scoops, the Jamesy source right here, where I had full confirmation Carlos Mendoza was going to Tampa. Apparently he just lives there, but that happened the same night as all these rumors, and he was flying commercial from LaGuardia to Tampa Bay late at night. So I was like, I don't know why that would be happening. It seems like a sudden thing. It was weird, but it just seemed like there was a lot of motion in one shot, and then now it's dissipated the last few days. So I do feel like there was a bit of a push from the Mets to get Pete to, again, the deal they seemingly have always wanted to get him on, which is short-term, high AAV, what we've been talking about for a very long time. And him and Boris are still just like, no, that's not what we want. We want to go for it. And I do think that we're getting to a point with Pete and Scott Boras where I think they might be missing the big picture here in a bit of a way.
You think? If Pete and Scott Boras think he's getting $175 to $200 million, he'll never play baseball again. He will never play baseball, professional baseball for any team in the United States ever again, in the entire world. There's no one who is going to pay him $175 million. We've been talking about like in a perfect world where everyone's happy. It may not be the best baseball decision long term for the Mets, but we've said like that 5/125 for Pete, 5/130, whatever it is. Like we would be like as fans, love that. Pete, I'm sure should be happy. But that's $50 million off the bottom of what they're saying, which is absurd. I don't know what contract they think that Pete's going to get. Where do they think that's 7 for 175? Because there's no team in their right mind besides maybe the Angels because they're stupid, and maybe the Rockies. But now the NL West is really impossible to win in. So I don't know who in the right mind would ever be able to pay Pete Alonso that kind of money, and it would make sense.
It's also not a great thing for Pete Alonso when someone like Teoscar Hernández, who is not a first baseman, he's mostly a DH or a bad corner outfielder. But a lot of people argue that Pete is probably mostly a DH or a bad first baseman. And he, in terms of production for the last 2 seasons,
Similar.
It's not that much different than Pete Alonso. Really not as different as you would feel deep in your heart. He's even stole 12 bases last year. Pete's definitely going to hit more home runs than Teoscar. Pete has way more of a power ceiling, and Pete is 2 years younger than Teoscar. But 3 for 66 for a right-handed power bat that doesn't give you any defensive value, that to me is not great for Pete's market. That tells me that 3 for 90 is an awesome deal for Pete Alonso. And the other thing about Pete Alonso signing that 3 for 90 deal is that if he were to sign that deal, that's not the end of his career. It's not the end of his earning potential. I understand that this is theoretically, and this has been the whole thing with this whole Pete conundrum, the last chance for him to get the monster contract. I don't disagree with that. I think it totally is. Even if that ship may have sailed, this is the last stand to even possibly get something like that, unless in that 3 for 90 deal, there's a 1-year opt-out, and Pete Alonso can spend 162 games hitting either directly in front of or directly behind Juan Soto, and either always have a guy on first base when he hits, or always have the pitcher scared shitless for the guy hitting behind him, which we saw from all the Yankees guys this year. It's really good to hit next to Juan Soto in the lineup. It helps you have a really good season. So then maybe you could have your one chance after a 1-year opt-out next year to sign even possibly a 5-year deal. But the other side of it too, let's say Pete that gets the 3 for 90, doesn't want to opt out, he spends 3 for 90 with the Mets. There's nothing that's ever going to stop Pete Alonso from continuing to chop off 2 for 40s and 1 for 20s in perpetuity, as long as he doesn't have like any horrible debilitating injury or fall off a cliff so fast that it makes everyone's head spin. Jack Peterson just got a 1 for 20. Michael Conforto got a 1 for 17. I mean, again, those guys are both lefties, slightly different. Michael Conforto missed an entire year with injury 2 years ago and really hasn't been good since. Like Jack Peterson hasn't really gone up or down in value the last few years, despite keep getting older and never having ceiling of Pete Alonso. Like Carlos Santana in his late 30s just got a deal for what, almost 20 million AAV. So even if Pete is a 3 for 90 guy, and then after that plays 3 more seasons for $20 million, that comes out to what? A 6 for 150 when it's all said and done. I know it's not as guaranteed as they'd probably want it to be, name of the dotted line, not have to worry about anything. But the 6 for 150, that's a contract that I feel like right now would 100% end this entire conundrum. And that's a contract that's really similar to the one that Pete Alonso wrongfully turned down a year ago. So I think I don't know, but this is the Scott Boras way. This is what he does. This is how he kind of winds up screwing a lot of free agents in the middle class. It seems to me like there's these sides are very far apart. I'm not sure if they have to be.
That's the only thing that makes me think maybe the 3 for 90 isn't actually that real, because Boras just did these contracts with Blake Snell and with Matt Chapman, and it both got those guys paid even more than they were going to last offseason. So it's like almost in a weird spot where it's like, does he not believe in Pete either being able to play better? And like, we got to cash it now because you got nothing left after this. Like, it's very, very weird. And it's leaning me to I still think Pete's going to be a Met at the end of the day. It makes too much sense, and I don't even believe these bullshit Giant rumors either. Like, until there's more heat behind them, I'm just going to kind of take them as a little bit of propaganda, a little bit of trying to make the Mets scared. But there is a more creeping up feeling in my body that this is going to end ugly for the Mets and Pete Alonso.
I think it's no matter what, we're in a situation where it is ugly in general. Like, this is an ugly situation. You talked about the Snell and Chapman contracts. Those were both signed in fucking March last year.
Yeah.
Like, we're nowhere near that. It's still December. Like, we have months and months before Boras gets into that range where he's like, let's sign pillow deals. I don't think Boras thinks about pillow deals until there's a week of spring training games that are played. And I don't think the Mets are in a situation where they might be super willing to wait this out. And also, that's another reason why I think that Teoscar rumor kind of came out when it did. Like, oh, the Mets are looking for another right-handed bat. Not an accident. That came out the day after. Apparently, the Pete Alonso contract kind of went by the wayside. The whole thing to me just feels like it's all a game of posturing, it's leverage. It's a whole giant just mess. And I do think part of it, I don't know, like you said, if that 3 for 90 is real. If it's real or if it's fake, there's probably a part of the Pete Alonso that feels like it's a slap in the face.
Which is
considering
crazy.
What he's done for this team, how long he's been here, kind of how the fact that, and that's also where it's coming from, like this massive point of sentimentality from the Mets fans that super duper want him back. People are like, he has to retire Met. He's one of the best homegrown power hitters in the history of the franchise. So because you're not able to develop power hitters in the 90s and 2000s, you have to give Pete Alonso a sentimentality contract now? That's stupid. It doesn't make any fucking sense. You can't compare Pete Alonso to players from the fucking 70s. You compare him to the market right now. And the market right now is his first baseman aren't that valuable. Nate Lowe gets traded for a middle reliever last year who had an ERA in the fours. We know he has great stuff. This is a Robert Garcia podcast, always has been, but that's just that seems to be like a market inefficiency in baseball right now. So David Stearns and the Mets, as they do, are going to take advantage of it, where Pete Alonso and Scott Boras don't want to be taken advantage of, and that's not a good mix right now.
Yeah, I mean, I want Pete back so badly. Like, I'm with those fans of like, yes, I would love to see Pete be a Met as long as he physically can play good baseball. Like, I would love that because Pete is the man. Pete has been the man. He's hit so many home runs for this franchise, and even like the playoff run, that was pretty sick what he did for us. But it's got to be at the right price, and the price tag that he's putting out there right now is insane. It's absolutely insane. I'm with you. 6 for $150, sign, shake hands, whatever. If it ages like milk in year 4, 5, and 6, I will take that risk. It's not my fucking money. I don't care. But that to me is like the max, the physical max the Mets can and should ever go. And even then, they're bending the knee a little bit to Pete Alonso and the fan base, almost of like a let's just keep everybody happy move.
That for me feels like, again, it's way too high. That to me just feels like what Pete Alonso should be envisioning for himself if the 3 for $90 comes to fruition.
Yes.
Because again, Pete Alonso, he'll get $20 million forever.
For
as
sure.
long as he's breathing and his heart's beating.
Yeah.
And the legs still work. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like Jack Peterson's still getting that much money every single year. Like, again, lefty, different, but you can do that. Like that's something that's possible. And then again, guy like Teoscar Hernández, he needed to take a few years to pick up his value in the middle of it when he had a bunch of really good years in a row. And now at the end of the day, he's just signing back with the Dodgers. So whether or not the Mets are serious about him or not, no matter what, this team is very aware that they need a bat or two to go into the season intent to compete. I think they will get them. I don't know. My confidence level with Pete Alonso over the last week probably went from 80% to 65%.
Yeah, I mean, with all the, I think that's fair. 65%. I definitely feel less confident now.
Yeah, less confident, but there's still no better option for Pete or for the Mets than each other. And he has a fucking qualifying offer attached to him.
And it's kind of the Giants, and I don't think they're going to lose a draft pick over Pete Alonso. Like, that rumor came out, and it conceptually makes sense. I also don't think that's a good place for Pete to hit. That doesn't really make any sense for me there either.
I'll tell you this. First of all, it's a horrible place for Pete to hit. But I think conceptually, they are the only team that actually would do it. Because the new Buster Posey Giants seems like they're going for like home runs and RBIs, which they might need a hard change inside that building after the last few years. Or maybe we're underselling how much Buster Posey's taking in the data and the information and all that stuff. But Pete Alonso's power alley would play horrifically in Giants Park. He's a big right center field hitter. That's where he has a lot of his power. He will lose all of those home runs there, completely all of them. They will all become doubles. But maybe he'll squeak out a few triples. But that's just not a place for Pete Alonso to be successful. Every single year of Pete's career, except for 2021, he would have had less home runs in San Francisco than he would have had playing his games as a Met. Even in the 53 home run year, it would have been down to 46. 2021, for some reason, he would have had 2 more in San Francisco. Don't know why. I guess he pulled the ball more that year. 2022 would have been from 41 to 38. 2023, 46 to 38. And 2024, 38 to 33. Pete Alonso is a 33 home run hitter. You lose a lot of that value, tons of that value.
But again, all of a sudden, he doesn't get that next contract looking as good if he hits 33.
But then he might get the 5-year deal from them. So it might just be all he actually wants, which I could see that being the case for him and Boras right now. If there's a team who I think is going to get a little silly and give Pete Alonso the big deal, the Giants are the one I would be concerned about.
Yeah.
I also just don't know if that's going to happen. Pete's from Florida, New York and Florida. That's really easy.
Yeah.
Like that's an easy flight, easy way home. You can live in both those places very comfortably. San Francisco's really far away. It's a big lifestyle adjustment.
It's a city Pete and the family might not clash well with either. I don't know about that if it's a good fit.
It's just the whole thing. I don't know. I see them as the only one that could possibly do it, but I still don't see that as like a legitimate, true possibility until there's more smoke. I think it's all posturing for both sides. I think Pete, Boras, and the Mets know it's only each other. We're the last two people to dance right now. If we don't dance with each other, I don't know if we're dancing with anybody. So we have to do this.
Just making eyes at each other. You're gonna make eyes at me all night. You're gonna come say something. That's kind of how it feels. That being said, now that the Pete Alonso rumors are coming out, Corbin Burns is signed. All eyes are on if Jesse Winker returns, as we know. Who could be that extra bat that the Mets go after? A lot of Mets fans are clamoring for Jesse Winker. I like them. I'm seeing a lot of Anthony Santander, too, being thrown around. And to me, I know we spoke about it earlier in the offseason. I'm going to have 2 takes. One, initial feeling is like, whatever for Santander. Like, that's not the guy I want to give a long-term contract to. If he wants to sign a Teoscar contract, sure. Why not? I think that's totally in play, but I don't know if that's what he's looking for. 2, is this the weird free agent that we're kind of just like we're looking past for no reason, kind of, with Santander?
Yeah, I think both those are true. One thing I love about Santander that he gives the Mets is that he is a switch hitter.
With power.
I think this Mets team could just, a switch hitter, power hitter in the middle of this lineup, I think would really, really transcend it. We're pretty balanced right now, so having him and Pete comes in will probably be a little bit right-handed heavy again. Santander kind of marries the whole thing together, and that would be great. But if he's a guy that wants 4 or 5 years, he could quite literally kick rocks. Like Anthony Santander is a career 307 on base percentage guy who has a horrible chase rate, and he's just turned 30, and he doesn't play the field. That to me is just it's true recipe for disaster.
Played in Baltimore the last couple of years too, which is a hitter's heaven out there.
It's not so much a hitter's heaven anymore. Let's be real.
If when you're a left-handed hitter, it is. Who gives a shit about as a righty? He takes a third of his at bats righty.
I'm saying he still is a right-handed hitter sometimes. I don't think the Baltimore thing is super duper meaningful as it currently stands. But I think again, I don't think Anthony Santander 44 home runs next year. I'm pretty confident unless he signs a deal with the Red Sox, with the Yankees, who's not going to sign a deal with the Reds, with the Phillies, who's not going to sign a deal with. I think Anthony Santander is never going to get to 40 home runs again. I think that's fair. So I think you're looking at a 30 home run bat who's going to have like a 315 on base percentage and not give you good defense. To me, that's not that much different than Jesse Winker. You're going to be able to sign for 1 year, $9 million in the middle of March, who's going to be worth literally nothing, who I'm sure has taken like 9 total calls his entire winter for maybe the same 3 teams. Like he's just not, like there's different classes of free agent. Jesse Winker's time of the market has not exactly come yet. He's even behind like where Jock Peterson is. But Santander, I think it's fun, it's sexy. Like for the 44 homers last year are great. 814 OPS, sure. But seeing that on base percentage, even his career year, be barely above 300, like that's something where if you sign for a 3-year deal, the third year, you're like, it sucks me about the Anthony Santander taking up one of these spots. Like that would be the Starling Marte all over again to me.
Yeah, and
we're about to get rid of that.
Yes, we are about to get rid of that, and I think we got to avoid. Also, another thing that came out, the Teoscar stuff too, and I think Tim Healy put it out, was about were they considering Teoscar in the outfield to leave the DH spot still open and moving Nimmo to center, which I thought was super interesting too. I don't think that makes any sense, but I thought it was interesting.
I think that was just Tim getting after it with a take. I don't think it's anybody. Teoscar Siska was one of the worst outfielders in baseball last year.
Yeah.
And the Dodgers didn't have a great defensive outfield anyway, so it wasn't like he had a lot of help flanking him, but he's not a very good outfielder. I think Teoscar would just be, it's also bizarre that he's not a good outfielder because he's still not that old and he's like legitimately
good
fast.
Athlete, yeah.
It's just, he's just simply a butcher out there. And he's another guy, like it's not, him and Santander have similar strengths and similar weaknesses, but they kind of blend together a lot, where Santander will expand the zone, where Teoscar is just daddy hacks. Like he doesn't chase as much, but he'll swing and miss a lot.
Yeah.
And Teoscar's 2 years older. But Teoscar was also the same as Santander, hanging out at like 305 to 310 on base percentage until last year. He was hitting in the middle of the fucking Dodgers lineup with multiple Hall of Famers. Then everything looks good. So it's good for probably him and his career, his standing, that he's going to be back with the Dodgers. But I don't think Anthony Santander is this game-breaking free agent that maybe others do. I don't know if he's even a good fit in this Mets team, besides for the switch hitting thing, which is really unique and valuable. But if it's more than a 2-year deal, he can kick rocks.
Yeah, I'm with you totally on that. All right, let's talk about the other free agent deal real quickly that was signed during the holiday season. Corbin Burns, bit of a shock, bit of a surprise. What was it, 2 a.m.? As soon as we came back from the bar in Cranford, I get a notification from Jeff Passan. Corbin Burns, Arizona Diamondbacks, 6 years, $210 million. $35 million AAV, opt out after 2 years. I think probably every Mets fan in the world had the same reaction of, we should have done that. Would have taken that deal in a heartbeat. Context being that the Giants and Blue Jays, which hilarious, Blue Jays lose again. Hate to see that for that fan base. They missed again. And the reason that he didn't sign with them, even though they gave a higher offer, was because of the tax. The tax he was concerned about, and it ends up being more in Arizona. He also lives in Arizona. His family's in Arizona. So it's kind of a little bit of a homecoming for him as well, even though he grew up in California. At that price, I would have done it at the Mets, but he wouldn't have taken it. I think we can make those two statements.
No, that exact price, I would have loved for him to be on the Mets.
100%.
The fact that it's only a 6-year deal. You're only getting Corbin Burns from ages 30 to 36. That's awesome. You might not. There's a good chance you don't even have really that much fall off. Like there's a pretty good chance that Corbin Burns, the entire length of this contract, is one of the 30 best starting pitchers in baseball, legitimately. And if he's really good for the next 2 years, he just takes the opt out. You just got Corbin Burns for 2 years, $70 million, which is like the best thing I could ever. That's literally Blake Snell from last year. I think that's exactly what I said the Mets should have offered them if this got stretched into March. I think too much mudslinging has happened with Corbin Burns in the media, and it's too easy to see. They're like, oh my God, his K rate has fallen sharply every year. I know that's true, and Corbin Burns is not going to be the best pitcher in baseball probably ever again in his career. He's awesome, though. He's so good. And I don't think there was another team in baseball. Well, again, the Mets were never involved, and I trust David Stearns, who was very on top of Corbin Burns during his entire breakout. The fact the Mets were never involved, so I give my 2 cents to that. I don't think there's any team in baseball whose status is elevated for the 2025 season with the addition of Corbin Burns more than the Mets. And that's why I kind of wish they would have been a little bit more involved. Again, seems like from the beginning to the end, they were never even remotely or close to being involved. So I guess can't be mad about missing something that they never even considered remotely for 1 second.
Yeah, and again, I caution all Mets fans, just because you don't have an ace or a prototypical ace on opening day doesn't mean the Mets can't get an ace or a prototypical ace at some point during the season. We know there are going to be pitchers available. It's super sexy to win the World Series on March 28th and have the best roster in baseball. We know how much people love to do that. But at the end of the day, it's about what that roster is going to look like at the end of the year. If the Mets need pitching, I do believe at some point during the season, they will go make those acquisitions. Everybody else on the market available, truthfully, from the pitching side, I don't think we should touch with a 10-foot pole, probably, right?
I mean, I still love Nick Pivetta, but I don't think the Mets are going to do that. Like, I just don't. Offering Teoscar Hernández a contract makes me think the Mets, again, either fully posturing for Pete Alonso or just don't really care that much about the QO. Like, our draft pick is moving back 10 spots anyway. Like, we already signed one. I don't know. I think that if you sign more, it doesn't affect the IFA as much, but it'll still affect that, like, losing the picks. And if you get the 2 qualifying offer guys, you get the 3rd for free. So maybe that's all something to consider. But it just seems like the Mets, and David Stern has been pretty open about this, seems like they're pretty done with the pitching after acquiring Sean Manaea, with the exception of Roki Sasaki, who we're in the mix for, but still certain long shots. I think the only thing is that I could still see a surprising trade happen with the Mets for a pitcher. I could definitely still see that, whether it happens now, whether it happens in June, whether it happens in July. I don't know if the trade deadline's like August 3rd this year, so I guess technically whether it happens in August. The Diamondbacks are certainly going to trade a starting pitcher now.
That's what I was about to bring up.
It's definitely going to happen. I don't know who it's going to be. It really can kind of only be Gallen or Jordan Montgomery, but this is a very creative team to create a front office, and they still have plenty of holes all over their team. So I wonder what they're going to do to combat that.
They might be interested in like a
Brett Beatty.
Yeah. Not straight up for Zach Allen, of course, not straight up, but for a team that definitely is like a couple major league pieces away on their actual major league roster, Brett Beatty could be a little bit of a help for that team if he's the Brett Beatty we think he can be.
He also, I mean, I don't know if he's a fit for that team. Right now, on roster resource, the Diamondbacks opening day third baseman is Eugenio Suarez, who was awesome last year by all accounts. He's only signed for one more year. And right now, their starting DH is penciled in as Pavin Smith, the legend.
Diamondbacks fans that we're friends with, we know that people are not fond of Pavin Smith out in Arizona as an everyday player.
I will tell you, Pavin Smith had an August to remember this past season.
Yeah,
but
I think 3 homers in a game.
Yeah, and Eugenio Suarez's defense definitely has oscillated in the course of his career, so it can go up and down. But again, like, I don't know who's taking Brett Beatty. I think there's still a good chance he's just on the Mets roster on opening day next year.
More really likely than not, yeah.
Yeah, but this Diamondbacks team really, really, really needs bodies. Their bench right now with Pavin Smith in the starting lineup is Blaze Alexander, Tim Tawa, who? I don't know how many players in professional baseball. I don't know their names. I've never heard of Tim Tawa. Infielder, outfielder, and Alec Thomas, who's still a good player as their backup outfielders. They could probably use 2 more bats on this team, and they still have what I'd call like a mid to growing bullpen. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know how they're going to figure this out, but they're definitely going to trade one of these guys. It might not be to the Mets for sure, because they still have Jordan Lawler too, who's probably going to break camp with the team, be a guy all year. And they still have Ryan Nelson, who's their 7th starter right now. Who if they don't like Ryan Nelson, I love Ryan Nelson. Yeah. I think there's still definitely some upside in Brandon Pfaadt. Get him out of that division, one of the hardest divisions to pitch in baseball. If they're going to trade any of these guys, I hope there's some conversations being had. And I think there will be. I just still don't know exactly after the Manaea contract where the Mets fit into them.
Yeah, all I know is I just don't want it to be Jordan Montgomery. That's the only guy I don't want.
I would take him in 2nd.
Ugh, you would?
Why not? Could be great with the Mets. It'd be 360 RA. I'll pitch 165 innings.
You'll convince me when that conversation eventually happens, because I'm sure that rumor will start soon.
And because right now with the Mets, like I'm comfortable, like, and I say that like through gritted teeth, comfortable with our rotation, but still I think there's a question mark of Kodai Senga's health. I think I love what Sean Manaea did last year, but I think for all intents and purposes, we're penciling him in for like a 3.6, 160 innings, which is great. Awesome. Need that. Montas, Peterson, Holmes, while we like them all, there's still certain question marks, and then it's Blackburn and McGill. So like right now it's and then Griffin Canning. So it's a real chunk of like 4 through 6 starters, and we could really use another like 2 or 3 to tie the whole thing together. I don't know. It's bizarre, but I still think it's a playoff team right now with one more bat, but more would not hurt.
While I'm looking up some reviews, because we haven't read any reviews, and we figured last episode of the year might as well do it. What was going on with Steve Cohen's Twitter? Because I kind of caught it late.
All right, so people were saying it got hacked because when you went on Twitter this weekend or earlier this week, I keep forgetting what day of the week it is. Sunday, football's on right now.
Today's Sunday, yeah.
Steve Cohen's Twitter was just gone; it's not there. And now Steve Cohen's Twitter, it's back, but it doesn't have a profile picture or a cover image. And it was a weird situation. People were like, "Oh my God, Steve Cohen's Twitter's gone. What does this mean for Pete Alonso?" Nothing, clearly nothing at all. But just another weird thing to happen to the Mets. I'm sure there's some legal issue that Steve Cohen just couldn't have that Twitter open right now, or maybe he actually got hacked and they were able to stop the hacker before things got like too horrible of a level. But yeah, Steve Cohen's Twitter was hacked. It was a good thing to think about for 20 minutes on like earlier this week.
Yeah. All right, we got a couple reviews. Shall I read them to end the episode?
Yeah, read them out.
Want to start with the heater?
Yeah.
Poor quality. 1 star. Rich Ballantyne. Why do you guys need to curse so much?
Sorry, Rich.
It's a common complaint. I'm sorry, Rich. That's just what we're gonna do. It's words. You'll be okay. Oh, what do you got?
Jimmy Carter's passed away.
Damn. R.I.P.
Wow. R.I.P. Jimmy Carter. I think he was in hospice for almost 2 full years.
I was about to say he's kind of been on his last legs for a minute.
Yeah, a long time. Rest in peace, Jimmy Carter.
Rest in peace, Jimmy Carter. Awesome analysis from T Hearn 718. You guys provide the best data and analysis. Great job breaking down Clay Holmes. Appreciate that. And then our boy Gavin. Gavin left us another paragraph here.
I think he's left us like 3.
Shout out Gavin. We appreciate you, Gavin. Please read my review at the end. That's pretty good. When are you going to start to sell merch? Well, hold on. We both agree that Benj has potential, but when you said that Conforto has an amazing tenure with the Mets, you lost me there. His career average with the Mets was 255. Gavin, that sentence alone, you listen to this podcast, you know that's not the most important thing. That's also a pretty decent average, we'll say that. He will not be in the Mets Hall of Fame. He will also not get his number retired. I mean, that's true, but
definitely not.
You could still be good with a team and not get your number retired. He got a lot of hype, but he did not always live up to it at times. He was a big whiff when he was up to bat most times. At best, he's an average player. I cannot let you say stuff like this. Come on, man. I feel like people have a really bizarre remembrance of Michael Conforto. He was awesome.
Yeah, Michael Conforto with the Mets was 125 WRC plus guy and over 800 OPS. He's a really good baseball player. 815 OPS.
He'd be the third best hitter on the Mets right now?
I mean, I don't know, 4th definitely. Mark Fiento slammed.
I'm not saying current Michael Conforto. Okay. I'm saying as a lifetime.
Oh, that Michael Conforto.
Yes.
Yeah, 2016 Michael Conforto, 2017 Michael Conforto, and 2024 Mark Vientos. That would be like the young core we've always dreamed about having together for the Mets. That'd be perfect. No, Michael Conforto was a good bet. Yeah, I guess he just had to be there. I don't know.
Gavin might be a little bit younger than us too, so the memories might not really hit the same way of Michael Conforto.
I don't know. 2019 Michael Conforto was fucking awesome too.
Yeah. I mean, who wasn't in 2019? JD Davis was awesome in 2019. I
mean, it was still 30 homers, 260 average, and 30% better than league average. That's why it was WRC plus for the 2019 year.
There it is. Anything else here when we wrap up? It's the end of the year. You got any New Year's resolution you want to tell the people?
I haven't thought about the resolutions yet. I'm way too focused on Ohio State, Oregon to think about my resolutions. I cashed in a lot of my resolutions this year. I can go back and read them. They're in my notes somewhere.
Also, doing New Year's Eve with you again, and we're doing the lentils again. For those of you who are new to the podcast, the Schiano family has a tradition of eating lentils on New Year's at midnight. We did it last year. Shout out Drew and Christy. We did it at their party. James cooked up some lentils, took a video, put it on Mets'd Up. Pretty damn good year. About as good as it could have been.
I brought lentils to the function. I got some hate for it, but you know what? A lot of good years for the people at that party, I will say.
Oh, tons of great years.
I'm going back to my ins and outs from last year. We don't do resolutions anymore. We do ins and outs.
That's fair. I had some ins and outs too. I can pull those up.
Yeah. Carrying cash. I did that. Brett Baty, Mark Vientos. That counts. Bowling. Trying to speak more Spanish. I failed that one. Darts. We didn't play enough darts this year. That'll be one for next year.
I saw you sneaking a little darts in Cranford. I saw you.
I did. I played a little bit. I played a little bit. Europe. I cashed in on that one. My out, store-bought hummus. I have my own hummus recipe now. They make all the time. That was a good one. My out was free agency. I guess that doesn't count for Juan Soto, so I'll take that one away. Instagram, I've definitely spent less time on Instagram. Manhattan, spent less time in Manhattan. Politics, definitely out on that. Email, spent way less time on email. And the Jets, was out in the Jets the whole year. Great thing to be out on. Perfect.
My ins were meandering. I think I meandered a little more this year. A little more meandering. Darts was on my ends as well. Riding the bus, I've been all about the bus this year. Big bus guy. Jaywalking, I've been jaywalking every single scenario. Every chance I've been given, I'll cross that street before the crosswalk. Sweats at the bar, I've done it like 4 or 5 times.
Lot, yeah.
Electric. It's a great move. Popsicles, haven't had any popsicles this year. I missed that one. Writing on paper, I didn't write much either this year. Not a lot of writing.
Push that one to the next year.
And then beer, because I was out on seltzer. No more seltzers. Done with those. I think they're starting to die down. Frenchies, yeah, super out on Frenchies. Not a fan of those. Hiking, done with hiking. Never will do it. I was out on Brita. We're just ripping the tap, but I like my Brita. It was good. Bad water here in Astoria. Ice Spice, and then I was out on politics. I wasn't doing it. And I think it's a pretty good year.
Nevertheless, thank you guys. We've had a great year of the Mets'd Up podcast. We basically, in the last 12 months, had to rebuild this entire podcast from fully ground zero. Like, we had to completely start this thing over. We had to completely rebuild our base, our voice, like our audience. Like, we could not have done without you guys. We got tons of support from the beginning to the end. Yeah, we had credibility, a major thing we had to build back up. But last 12 months, this thing has grown a lot. We got great people working with now, Foul Territory. We're excited for the big year. The Mets went to the fucking NLCS and signed Juan Soto. Like, as a Mets fan, it's a banner year. And when your franchise only ever won 2 championships, it's probably the 3rd best calendar year they've ever had as an organization. It's super exciting for the future. We got great things coming on. We got some fun stuff planned. Definitely bear with us through these doldrum winter months. We're going to do some wild stuff. Definitely going to take some shots, experiment some stuff.
Yes.
Especially on YouTube. But once the season starts, you guys know you have Mark and I after every series. We're going to be coming with heat nonstop. Having a lot of fun, being at the ballpark all the time. Mark officially season ticket holder, which is going to be awesome.
Crazy.
But it's going to be, thank you guys for a great year. Love you guys. Don't say it enough. And it's going to be another great one next.
Just some fun facts to end it here. On the year, we're a couple days away from 2024, but 600,000 views on YouTube. And we know we had a couple 100,000 listens on the podcast. So that's pretty insane. Like almost a million.
More than a couple 100,000 listens. We're up to 140,000 listens, downloads on the podcast side since the middle of September.
So there we go. Like that's pretty sick. So we're over 1 million for the year in terms of people that have taken in our content, which is really cool. In terms of subscribers, gained nearly 5,000 subscribers on the year. The channel's at 8,000 subscribers at the time of basically recording this. That's really cool. People have listened or watched over 100,000 hours of our content on YouTube, which is insane. And we had our most viewed video ever. Like a week ago.
Last week.
Yeah, we hit the 20K mark on a video, which was really cool. I wish I could find how many total videos we uploaded on the year, but I got to imagine it's going to be around the. I mean, we uploaded a lot. We didn't miss a series.
Probably around 200. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't miss a series. That's something we do take pride in, and of course, that's not going to change anytime moving forward. Still going to pound out those series recaps for you guys. But yeah, awesome year, really good stuff all around, and can't wait to be a part of your 2025 Mets season as well next year. So again, if you have not yet subscribed on the YouTube channel, click that subscribe button. Really does help us out. Drop a like on the video too. And if you are listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever it is, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download and subscribe. Follow us on our social media at Mets'd Up on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can follow James on Twitter at
James_Shiano.
And I'm Giraffe Neck Mark with a C. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Have a happy new year. Be safe, and we'll see you guys next year. Bye.
All right, peace out, guys. Happy New Year.